Hello and welcome to Concens. My name is Peter Jorgensen and I would like today to explain you a little bit about our servo controller that we call C2-20. It's a small circuit that will enable our inline actuators to be positioned very precisely. So if you have an application where you want to just adjust or position your actuator pretty precise, then this is the best product for you. The product is available as a bare board. It's available in a DIN rail, so you can place it together with other DIN rail components, or you can have it in a small membrane box, so it can be placed all over. It's IP55 rated box. We have a user manual for the C2-20 that you can download from our homepage. And on page 2, where you have the technical data, I'll mention some of the important things, and that is that the supply voltage is from 9 to 35 volts. We can work with up to 15 amps continuously, and up to 20 amps if it's a lower duty cycle. On page 3, you will find the different parameters you can adjust in the controller and a small explanation about the different parameters. The parameters can be set in the controller by using a program from a PC, and this program you can download from our homepage. And there's a small video explaining how to install and how to work with the parameters. It's 2 small videos you can find on YouTube. You just search for Concens and then you will see the different videos you can have from us. And you have to use the 2 ones who are named M tool. On the last page of the user manual, you will find an explanation about the different screw terminals on the circuit. We have 14 different terminals, and number 1, 2, 3 and 4 is for the whole circuit inside the actuator. It's a plus 5 volt, the 2 Hall signals and the ground signal. And the ground signal is also the same used by the power supply. Number 5 and 6 is the wires from the actuator. And quite often we use an 8-wire cable to the actuator, and then we use double wires for the motor current. And number 7 is the positive signal from the power supply. Please note that there's no fuse in the circuit here, so you have to use an external fuse if you need a fuse for each controller. In the other end of the circuit board you have terminal 8 is a ground signal you can use out. Then you have signal telling position OK. That means you get a signal out when the actuator has reached the desired position. Then you have the learning terminal number 10. That is first time the actuator is installed on this controller. It needs to learn how many Hall pulses you have to work with. Then you have a stop and reset terminal, and then the input about which stroke you want the actuator to move to, and that is an analog input. So we can use 0 to 10 volt or 0 to 5 volt, and that is selectable on a small dip switch that is located on the board, and switch number 1 is the one who selects between 0 and 10 volt or 0 and 5 volt. It's all explained in the manual on the other side how you do this. Terminal number 13 is the terminal for fault in and out, so it's both an input and an output terminal. So if this actuator who's running on this controller is getting a problem for any reason, then there will be a fault output here, and this output you can of course see in your controller at PLC or computer, or if you also if you have other actuators who are working together with this actuator sitting on this controller, then if you connect terminal 13 to the other controllers, then all of them will stop if one of them gets a problem. And the last terminal is 14, and that is a 5-volt output. And if you want to control the stroke from a potentiometer, that's also possible. Then you can use the 14 and 8 as the input to the potentiometer, and then the arm on the potentiometer will give the analog signal, the voltage, into terminal 12, deciding the stroke that you want to have. There's also one small red connector on the C2-20, and that's the one where you make the connection to your PC when you want to adjust or change the parameters in this controller. I will now demonstrate the functionality of the C2-20. We have here a small box where we have installed 3 different controllers, and this one is the C2-20. As you can see, I have already installed the cable to the actuator, and the red one is, and the yellow and the green and the blue is for the Hall circuit in the actuator, and then we have the double wires for the motor sitting here also. And this example, it's nice to have a connector. If you have a need for a possibility to exchange the actuator very fast, then it's nice to have connectors, so you can easily plug and unplug. So normally we supply the actuators with a 6-wire connector, and you just plug it in here. Of course, you can also put in the wires directly from the cable into the screw terminals on the C2-20. If you want the plug version, then you just order from us a small piece of cable that you can install, and then you have a plug and play system. This actuator we are demonstrating today, or using for this demonstration, is a 24-volt actuator, which is most normal voltage for industrial applications. So I will put on the power supply, put it on 24 volt, and connect it. The first thing we have to do, if it's the first time that this actuator is installed on this controller, is to make a learn. And the learn is by giving terminal 10 a positive voltage. It has to be higher than 4 volts. So here I use the supply voltage. That's the maximum you can do. And then you just give a signal, and then you can see that the actuator is starting moving quite slowly. That is because we have one of the parameters is that you can decide the speed, the learning speed. And maybe this is the first time the actuator is sitting in your application. So it's very nice that you can watch the movement very slowly, so you can really monitor what is happening in the actuator or in your application. And when the actuator has reached the full stroke, then it starts counting, moving back. Then it's counting all the Hall pulses you have. So now it has completed the learning cycle, and now I can start working with the actuator. I use a potentiometer here to adjust the voltage. So if I give it a little more, it will move a little bit. And here we have adjusted the parameters so you will have soft start and soft stop. Maybe you can hear when I have it close to the microphone. Right. So it's a pretty soft and gentle movement. Of course, you can on the parameters change it so it will be more quick start and stop. So you have full control over acceleration and deceleration. To see the parameters, you need to install the M-Tool software on your PC. And when you have done that, you also need to order one piece of cable, a USB cable with a small dongle. And you simply connect it to the red connector on the circuit board. And then on your PC, you go to the M-Tool software, you open it, and then you press connect in the lower side of the window you have opened now. You press connect, and now it has connection to the C2-20. And now you pressing the next window here is you get all the parameters uploaded from the controller. So now you can see what parameters we have in this controller. And here you can see some of them. The speed is 100% with the normal speed, and also, like I told you, the learning speed is less than 100%. So you can limit it all the way down to 35%. Then the next parameter is the current limitation. That decides how much force the actuator can give you. And here it's set to 1.8 amp, and that is the maximum for this Concens actuator. But you can find in the data sheets the different values for different loads. And down here you can see also the soft stop and the soft start values. So one more thing you have here in this window is a section with some service information. When you are moving this with the actuator, you can see the current it's using. Since we now are working with unloaded, we're not moving anything now, so it's unloaded, so it uses very little current. But underneath it we have an item called cycles. That's every time you start the actuator, it will be one digit higher. So now I start it again, and it moves to 170. And here you can see which whole number it stopped at. And on this actuator, this small actuator, we have more than 10,000 Hall pulses. So you can imagine it's very precise that you can move it. And then you can see the drive hours. And this means that if you come back to this actuator or this controller after a long time, several years maybe, then it's possible to see how many times the actuator has been started and how many hours it has been running. So it's a good service indication of how well the actuator is behaving. On the controller, we have to see the signal of the position OK, we have installed a small LED, but of course this signal will normally go to your PLC and your computer that is programming the wanted desired stroke. So when it's moving, it goes, the signal disappears, and when it has reached the position that you want, then the signal comes back again. Regarding the fault signal, of course it could work as a family signal, but also if you have a need for an emergency switch, then this emergency switch shall be connected, so it gives a ground signal to the fault input when you push it, and when you release it again, then the actuator or the actuators who are in the same family, they will start moving again to the desired position. And this completes the small demonstration of the C2-20. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact us on support @concens.com. I wish you good luck with your Concens products.